I'm delighted to welcome you all to the 7th Scottish Marine Energy Research Symposium. The research presented over this 4-day event will help improve our understanding of the potential environmental and socio-economic impacts of offshore renewable energy. This is not only relevant to Scotland but also the rest of the UK and globally. Ultimately, growing our evidence base is absolutely essential to support sound decision making in the marine environment. This will be key to unlocking the sustainable development of offshore renewable energy and to delivering on our net zero and nature positive ambitions. The ScotMER Symposium attracts a diverse audience with a global reach. I'm pleased that so many of our stakeholder groups will be participating over the course of this week, including government officials, industry, academia, environmental non-governmental organisations and statutory nature conservation bodies. I'd like to acknowledge and thank each and every one of you for the vital role you play both in collaborating on the ScotMER programme and in the wider context of working together to reach our net zero and nature positive targets. ScotMER is a unique collaborative research programme which sits at the interface between policy planning, consenting and science. It operates at the forefront of research into the interactions between offshore renewable energy, the marine environment and society. The programme brings together expertise across the whole ecosystem and does that in its 7 receptor groups. These receptor groups cover all aspects of the marine environment: ornithology, particularly seabirds, marine mammals, fish and fisheries, benthic ecology, diadromous fish, physical processes, movement and chemistry of the ocean. In addition, there is a dedicated receptor group that focuses on socio-economics. Through these collaborative receptor groups, ScotMER identifies priority evidence needs. Then, forming a targeted programme of research, it actively addresses priority knowledge gaps that are barriers to the delivery of Scotland's net zero targets. Throughout this week, you will hear from a range of research projects funded by ScotMER. Equally as important are projects funded by other research programmes, and they will also feature. Together, these all contribute towards building the evidence base and move us closer to delivering sustainable offshore renewable expansion in Scotland. Offshore renewable energy will be key in tackling the climate emergency, as well as offering significant economic opportunities for the people of Scotland. ScotWind is the world's largest commercial leasing round for floating offshore wind and places Scotland at the forefront of global offshore wind development. The innovation in targeted oil and gas INTOG leasing round will add to the huge number of projects in Scottish waters, another groundbreaking opportunity in the energy transition for Scotland. The scale of expansion is undeniably ambitious and exciting. Currently, the potential pipeline represents over 40 gigawatts of capacity across 20 ScotWind and 12 INTOG projects. This will add significantly to the 3 gigawatts that is already operational. We're clearly making concrete steps towards our net zero future. To support our ambitions, we are almost tripling our capital funding to anchor the offshore wind supply chain in Scotland to £150 million in 2025 to 26. This funding is expected to bring additional private investment of £1.5 billion in the infrastructure and manufacturing facilities which are critical to growing this sector. The offshore wind boom will create thousands of jobs across Scotland and the UK. The Offshore Wind Industry Council predicts the sector will support over 100,000 jobs by 2030. In Scotland, the £100 million investment in Ardersier Port is set to create 3,000 jobs and reskilling opportunities for the community over the next decade. However, as we move forward, it is essential that we strike the right balance. We need to harness the potential of the renewables revolution while ensuring the responsible development of Scotland's shared marine space. The significance and urgency of the climate emergency cannot be talked about in isolation without addressing the twin crisis of biodiversity loss. Published in November 2024, the Scottish Biodiversity Strategy outlines the Scottish Government's ambitions to restore biodiversity by 2045 and become nature positive by 2030. The work that the ScotMER programme delivers will help us to understand how offshore wind might play its part in our nature positive journey. It is evident that there is a need to balance delivering multiple important and urgent outcomes for Scotland. Our marine environment is busy with increased competition for space and resources. We use our marine space for many purposes, from providing food and energy to leisure, health and well-being, and delivering economic value. This brings to the fore the critical importance of marine planning, a powerful tool which seeks to manage the needs of our people, our economy and our environment through informed decision making. Scotland's first National Marine Plan was adopted in 2015 and is now undergoing updates to reflect our commitment to net zero by 2045. The National Marine Plan 2 will help to tackle the global climate and nature crises by helping to sustainably manage our marine shared space in line with Scotland's blue economy vision. A solid evidence base and your participation are both critical to successful delivery of the NMP2. That's why we are committed to sharing outputs as they become available and want to hear your views to help us build a plan in line with just transition principles. You'll have an opportunity to hear more from the National Marine Planning team on this process later today. Central to offshore wind development in Scottish waters is the Sectoral Marine Plan for Offshore Wind Energy, SNP-OWE. Scotland's plan-led approach is a unique and world-leading outlook on marine planning, and critically, it supports offshore wind development with respect to marine users and our environment. We are currently working to publish an updated sectoral marine plan in 2025. The ScotMER programme plays an essential role in feeding evidence into the planning process, and the updated SNP will take account of the latest evidence on potential impacts on people, our economy and the environment. In spring 2025, we will be commencing a consultation on a draft updated plan. I welcome continued and future engagement with you all as key stakeholders to help us maximise the benefits of growing Scotland's offshore renewable industry. The vital part that scientific evidence plays in planning and when making decisions in the marine environment is absolutely clear. So I thank you all for your essential contributions. Ultimately, these collaborative efforts are boosting Scotland's renewable energy industry on our journey to reaching net zero. I sincerely hope you enjoy the ScotMER Symposium. The schedule is full of interesting talks and workshops over the course of the next 4 days. We very much look forward to continuing on this journey with you all.
Good morning. I'm Annabel Chirpy, a Director in the Scottish Government, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the 7th ScotMER Symposium. It's going to be an exciting programme over the next 4 days that will highlight the groundbreaking work being taken forward in the offshore renewable energy space. The evidence and research we will be discussing underpins our pathway to delivering Scotland's net zero and biodiversity ambitions, as well as delivering against the blue economy vision outcomes. As highlighted by the Minister, the ScotMER programme is unique because it works at the interface between policy, planning, consenting and science. This means we can ensure that we have the best available evidence to inform decision-making and policy development across the offshore renewable energy programme. Therefore, research and evidence have a critical enabling role in delivering Scotland's offshore energy ambition. It can do this in many different ways. For example, it can fill evidence gaps in the interaction between offshore wind and the marine environment to ensure we can minimise impacts. It can enhance access to marine data to build a robust evidence base to de-risk the consenting process. It can provide evidence to reduce the level of precaution we can apply to our planning and consenting decision making, and it can help us understand the social and economic implications of developing offshore wind at scale. By taking this data-driven approach, we can foster greater transparency and confidence in our planning and delivery landscape to both encourage the growth of offshore wind, safeguard the marine environment, and deliver a just transition to those impacted by the energy transition. Evidence and research really are at the forefront of enabling the offshore wind sector in Scotland. You're going to hear more about this in the Scottish Government update later today, but just a few things to mention here. We're currently working at pace to deliver the updated sectoral marine plan for offshore wind energy. The revised plan assesses the environmental, social and economic impacts and opportunities from the development of the ScotWind and Intog leasing rounds in Scottish waters. The latest evidence, including from a range of ScotMER projects, is being used to inform the various assessments that underpin the plan to inform the constraints and opportunities for development and the most appropriate mitigation measures. The draft plan will go out to consultation in April. Alongside developing our planning framework, we're also working closely with UK Government to implement the offshore wind provisions in the Energy Act 2023. This includes ensuring that proposed reforms to the habitat regulations support the delivery of strategic compensation and enhance our marine environment, and work on proposals for a Scottish Marine Recovery Fund that could serve as a vehicle for managing the funding and allocation of these measures. Over the course of the next few days, you will hear from those who have delivered or are delivering this vital research, which is providing valuable insights and information to ensure that we meet our offshore wind ambition using the best available evidence. Our marine environment will undoubtedly change as a result of the upcoming expansion of offshore wind, and the evidence being delivered in ScotMER will be essential in our best efforts to predict those changes and manage impacts. Our statutory duty is to protect seabirds and marine mammals while also delivering offshore wind at the scale of our current ambitions. It's without a doubt challenging. However, Scotland's offshore energy journey is a story of ambition, growth and potential. I'd like to highlight some of the research currently underway that will enable this journey and how this research holds wider strategic value across government. Our largest projects to date include 2 ornithology projects, which go by the acronyms BRAIDS and Orchestra. Together, these will help us collect tracking data that will improve our understanding of movement and foraging behaviours through different seasons, providing a better understanding of displacement caused by offshore wind and potential impacts on energy budgets and subsequent survival. Our Scottish Passive Acoustic Network, SPAN, has been expanded into new areas to collect data on the distribution of marine mammals and has also recently been used to detect movements of tagged salmon in conjunction with another tracking project. Of course, while our statutory requirements do focus on seabirds and marine mammals, we must also consider the other receptors in the marine environment, the benthos, fish and fisheries and physical processes. A new OWEC project, part funded by ScotMER, EcoChange, will determine the extent of change in marine diversity and community structure due to the introduction of artificial structures. And we also must mention monitoring fisheries as an industry, as well as the fish that they target, the projects in understanding changes in physical processes and biogeochemistry, both how to model them and steps to observe them in situ. And alongside this, the growing economy and managing the social aspects while we deliver ScotWind. I'd like lastly to highlight the data workshop and the critical importance of data sharing and maximising the impact of the research that is undertaken. These ScotMER projects and the evidence they provide will also feed into other Scottish Government work streams, providing added value. For example, the seabird data will help feed into the Scottish Seabird Action Plan, and the tracking of salmon will contribute to the Wild Salmon Implementation Plan. Throughout this event, you will hear of the cutting-edge research as it is being delivered, and in many cases, we're still interpreting what new data has helped us learn and establishing next steps in research to ensure delivery of the evidence we need. Within this space, in the ScotMER and other research programmes, they will continue to evolve in time to enable sustainable offshore energy and consider its life beyond planning and licensing through the build-out, operation and sustainable decommissioning. Our current funding from ministers is allocated until 2027. So while we work at pace to deliver the evidence we need now, there is work to be done to outline and define the future of ScotMER beyond 2027. By then we will have moved on from planning and firmly into consenting, making great use of the evidence that has been delivered by ScotMER. Further research areas are likely to include delivery of compensatory measures and subsequently monitoring, monitoring considerations for the offshore wind farms once in place, consideration of potential impacts in light of other impacts beyond our control, e.g. avian influenza, and moving towards an ecosystem level understanding. This is the work we have to do. So these are examples and be really interested in what comes out of the symposium. This morning, you will be hearing from those from Scottish Government who are at the forefront of enabling the delivery of offshore energy for Scotland, including from the Sectoral Marine Plan and Licensing Operating Team, as well as Nature Scot, and how they will be able to manage the extent of advice for the upcoming period. I'd like to finish by thanking you for attending, whether in person or virtually, our symposium. The power of getting everyone together to hear the most recent research and to foster good collaboration and networks is really critical. By embracing a culture of research collaboration and data transparency, we can harness the full potential of Scotland's offshore wind. I hope you enjoy the next 4 days. Thank you.